Hi guys, welcome to the Two Doc Show. I'm Dr. Ellie, and with me is myself, Dr. Ellie. Dr. Ingky is not available this week, but that doesn't mean the show can't go on. So what do we have in store for you today? So today, actually, there's no we, it's just myself. Um, Interestingly enough, I had some feedback from some of my listeners, and what we found out is that there are some topics that you guys really want to hear about, and this is one of the very easy and practical topics that was actually asked upon for me to speak about, and it's about practical ways to save money. Well, in times of COVID and times whereby people's money is being stretched, there are a call for many of us to actually see how we can best stretch the ringgit. It doesn't help that the ringgit has been depreciating against the US dollar and or just about any other currency. Doesn't help that your banks have already cut a lot of interest, so that means your savings are pretty much non-existent. Probably can't even fight inflation. You're better off even keeping your money in EPF rather than taking it out to do some risky investment. But again, investment will probably be another topic that Dr. Ingky would be more than happy to speak about, whether is it through investment or through any kind of other forms of financial planning. But today, we're basically going to be talking about tips on saving money. So when we talk about saving money, I need to stretch back quite a fair amount of history to the point whereby when money was difficult to come by. So even at this point of time, there's still ways whereby I still need to stretch the dollar, still need to stretch the ringgit, because truth be told, whether is it in my position, your position, or any position, money doesn't come easy to most of us, and every cent counts. So here are probably, I would say maybe I'm going to share maybe 5 to 6 tips, and let's see how much we can stretch it. Yeah. So number one, when it comes to spending, I find food. Food takes up a lot of money, and when it comes to eating, we love food. I love food. Who doesn't like food in Malaysia, right? If you don't really like food, you're half Malaysian. You probably be frowned upon by many other people. So how to save money on food? Good food doesn't come cheap, so to speak, but expensive food doesn't mean it's good either. How many times have you been to a restaurant only to be disappointed, not just by the price tag, but the quality is poor, the service is poor? So let's talk about how to save money with food. Number one, cook. Learn how to cook. Seriously, I myself do some cooking, and what I find is cooking does help to save money, especially if you're cooking in larger amounts. So if it's for a family, you save money by cooking together and sharing the meal rather than going to the restaurant to order the individual meals. If you're a bachelor, same thing. It's going to be a bit boring, but when you cook, it makes more sense to cook in a slightly larger bowl, not for one person, one meal. Where else, if you cook for a couple of days worth of food and you store it and you reheat it later, it makes perfectly good sense. For example, if you are going to make burgers, if you buy the beef patty, you couldn't get poorer quality meat at a price whereby each burger will come round about 7 to 8 ringgit. But if you make it from scratch, the raw materials may seem a little bit more expensive in the beginning, but you're going to get high quality products. And if you make it in bulk, you can store it and you can reheat it later, or you can use it to make different things out of it. But when you cook in bulk, it saves money. Another good example is like rice. Have you tried cooking rice for one person? The pot, a lot of your rice will get stuck on the corners. In fact, the same amount of rice will get stuck onto your pot if you're cooking for 2 or 3 or even for 10. So it no longer is portion dependent. It is actually on frequent batch dependent. So one batch you will waste X amount of rice that's going to get stuck on the sides. So if you cook more, you can store it and you can use it later, especially if you want to do fried rice as by Uncle Order. The other thing that you can do when it comes to saving money with food is that, like when you're cooking pasta, you can cook one batch, then you can stretch it out, or you can use it and you can barter trade your friends. So a good way to share is if you've got a bunch of friends, or you've got work colleagues and you said, okay, you do fried rice or rice dishes and I do pasta. Another person will make, let's say, pre-made some meatballs or burgers, and you switch around. Because when you switch around, you have variety and you set a fixed budget. So that's one of the ways that you can do it if you cook yourself. The other thing that I find is groceries. I spend a lot of money if I go to groceries without any planning. And it's like IKEA. You go in, you invariably walk out with something that you don't need. You see somehow that packet of biscuits will call out to you like, oh, buy me. Rather than, if you plan ahead, it's much better. So if you're going to do your groceries, again, you have to know where to shop, where you're going to get a cheaper produce, and make a list. And when you make a list, the other challenge I like to give myself is, number one, have the list. You already pre-plan where the food is, which aisle you're going to go, and aim for the free parking. Yes, you can be that cheapskate or safe. So when I go, I look for places whereby the parking gives me 15 to 20 minutes free parking, after which you have to pay. Then you time yourself, and that's what I do. I rush in, I get exactly what I want, I don't browse around, and I aim for that free parking moment. So most of the time, 12 minutes, 14 minutes, you pretty much do something like what an army fuller does. Go in, bam, get it, and get out. Yep, don't waste time. Don't look around, don't shop around, don't suddenly have an urge to buy something else. If you have that urge, keep it for the next round of groceries, because that's not in today's list. That was an ad hoc list. Save money. Apart from that, as we move along to that, the other thing that I usually like to do to save money is pay by cash rather than the credit card or your debit card. Money is better saved when you can see it rather than when you can't see it. So credit card is probably the most dangerous way to spend or to use it, because you do not see it until the bill comes at the end of the month or at the end of your billing cycle. And before you know it, you have raked up a couple of hundreds or even 1,000 or 2,000 or even more just on your purchases. Same thing for the debit card. You could set a limit on your debit card, so that helps to control your spending, or don't use it at all, because debit cards, same thing. You don't really see it. It's detrimental. The only advantage your debit card has above your credit card is you can't spend over whatever you don't have. So if your bank account has 200 ringgit left, that's it. You can only spend to the max of 200. You can't go overboard. Whereas your credit card, you can spend 300, 400. You can pre-purchase and pay back later with interest. Then that kind of takes up even more of your spending money, right? So what I would do is I would actually put in cash. I literally treat myself like a parent would treat their school-going kids. I give myself that pocket money. This is $100 that's going into my wallet. Work with it, and that's it. So it doesn't matter whether it's for groceries, for lunch, for going out, coming to the office. I'm stuck with having that budget to work around with. So then it helps, really helps you plan and budget. Then you would think twice or think 3 times, or even don't think at all about spending. You would think about how else not to spend it rather than trying to spend it. Yep. Now let's see what else is on the list. Transportation. So many of us would have a car, and you have to balance between using the car versus taking public transportation if it's available. And even on transportation, sometimes going to one place to the other and back, it may make more sense to take a Grab rather than to drive. I give, for example, if I'm in office, my parking is already paid for, and I need to go meet a client, let's say in downtown, somewhere else, okay? The distance of traveling, it already takes up driving time, so I'm non-productive because I'm driving. When I arrive, then there's the parking fee to be concerned about. And if that area, let's say it's the parking is going to be expensive, 3 ringgit, 4 ringgit per hour, and you're going to be there for the next 2-3 hours, and you have to drive back to the office, so you're going to spend close to about 10, 12, 15 ringgit inclusive of time plus parking. If you took a Grab, then you need to just do a check. If the Grab you manage to get it for 8 ringgit, 9 ringgit, combine both ways. Or even if it's about the same price, why not? Because you are actually doing a total saving. So you need to weigh in the options of using public transportation. Also depends where you are. If you are in the city, there are free buses that goes around. Though not everyone will probably want to use it, but these are probably for more practical tips for people who are still studying and you've got a bit of time that you can use, rather than if you have to move from one place to another and do not have that flexibility of time. Next, what else do I do to save money? Clothes, yes. Clothes are such whereby we like to buy brands or we don't like to buy brands. You have a choice. But you got to be a very smart consumer when it comes to clothes. Once upon a time, I used to think that Uniqlo was cheap, and it was. You can get a shirt for $29.90, then it went up to $49.90. These days, I notice even in Uniqlo, a decent collar t-shirt goes for about 89 ringgit to 90 ringgit, and that's just a collar t-shirt. Maybe the t-shirts are fine, but the collar t-shirts are expensive. People who know me knows that sometimes I use certain brands, but what they don't know is I am really stingy when it comes to those brands. I don't buy if it's nothing less than 50%. If it's 40%, no. 30%, no. 20%, hell no. 50, maybe. 70, yes. 80, sure. You have to shop. You have to know. I usually walk around with a Polo Ralph Lauren. Looks nice, looks fancy. But what people don't know is I never buy if it's not 70%. And you can find these kind of deals online. I get mine, I'll be very honest, I get mine from Indonesia. So every year, Indonesia has almost 70 to 80% discounts on their Polo Ralph Lauren. And that's my secret tip. I like good quality stuff, but I like it as cheap as possible. Sport shoes. I don't pay high prices for my kicks. I run and I change my shoes every 550 to 650 kilometers because I don't want it to injure my body. But again, I would not buy if it's nothing less than 50% discount. If it's 40%, forget it. 30%, forget it, unless I'm really desperate. But it's usually 50. I invariably end up with weird colors. So no one actually pays attention, honestly. Really, no one's going to look at your sports shoes. And if they look at it, it's just like for that tiny second. And even if it's a weird color, who cares? Really, who cares? So I've got purple shoes. I've had red shoes. I've had purple interlaced with pink shoes. So what? I run most of the time and in the gym or on the road. No one's really going to comment. Unless you want to take pretty photos and you want the latest style, then again, you're not in that money saving mood now, are you? So again, look out for good deals, and when it comes to even like the sports and on your clothings, you need to know when they usually have sale and go for it. Sometimes it doesn't hurt to pre-buy. So in my case, I buy my sports shoes, I pre-buy. So I would have bought maybe 2 pairs on the last sale when it's 60% or 50 to 60 or 70%. I would have bought 2 pairs because you never know when you need the second pair, and you don't want to be in a position whereby when you need the second pair and there's no sale, then you're stuck. But of course, these days there's the outlet shops. Take a drive, go up to Genting or go to Mitsui Outlet Park, or even go all the way down to JB if you have to. But be a little bit flexible. If you're going to go for something that's going to help you save money, you don't have that luxury of choice, okay? So you have to work around and you have to style just a little bit. It's a lot of work around rather than trying to be very fixed about what you want versus what is available. So keep it easy. And again, this is money saving tips. I'm not talking about, trying to lead a luxurious lifestyle at the cheapest price possible. I'm just saying this is practical stuff. Next is sports clothes. Again, did you know that sports clothes cannot last very long, and it doesn't matter what brand it is? So whether it's a Nike dry fit or is it dry fit? I have no idea. It's either Nike or Adidas that's got a dry fit technology. But whatever it is, no matter whatever you pay, whether it's 200 ringgit, 300 ringgit for a running shirt. Can you believe it will cost 2 to 300 ringgit for one shirt? It's ridiculous. The cost of it is a fraction. The best quality materials comes from India and from Malaysia and Indonesia, and yet we purchase brands whereby they will ship all around the world, and you will probably, like the last time I bought something out of an outlet sale in overseas, it was actually made in Malaysia. It's weird because I can't find the same model here, but I got it there. But I won't buy it again unless it's about 70% off. But go for things whereby, these are things that you use and throw, pakai buang. So why chase for the big brands? No one really cares, and honestly, it's not going to make you run any faster if you got a Nike or an Adidas. Even if you had an Usain Bolt signed shirt, it's not going to make you run any much faster than that. You want something that's comfortable, you want something that's useful. If it's something that disperses sweat, then go for the one that disperses sweat, but don't pay so much for the brands. Go for something generic. Decathlon is a very good option. I used to think Sports Direct was, but apparently not all of it is good. Some are alright. You really need to shop around, but I almost end up going to Decathlon because it's cheap and it's only shirts and pants. I think I get my shirts at 25 ringgit, sometimes even less, and I go all about purchase. And like I said, shirts don't last forever. If you're someone who exercises a lot and then you realize your sweat would start to make the fabric have a certain stench after a couple of times. So I think it's about maybe 50 to 100 wears before your stench starts to come in. And really, that doesn't matter what you do with it, no matter how you wash, with what kind of soap, it's the same thing. You hardly going to use Clorox unless you had a white shirt. So if you've got anything that's colored, you use Clorox, you might damage the color and then you won't like it anyway. So even if you use any shirt, it will invariably have a lifespan before it starts to stink. So go for the cheaper options. Now, what if you don't want to? You want something that's very comfortable, fits you well. You like the Under Armour, you like the Nike, you like Adidas. It's all right. Get it at whatever price that you want. But there's such a thing as a fabric, a sweat buster, a fabric saver. So you can get those at running shops. I've bought one before, and if I could find the brand, I'll share it with you guys. But it's a liquid supplement that you put in. So you soak your shirts into this liquid, and each bottle would cost, I think, about 70 ringgit, and it's about worth 2 to 3 ringgit per dose of wash. So your 70 ringgit gives you about maybe 30 washes. So with that, when you soak your clothes in it, it kills the germs. When it kills the germs, no matter how you wash it after that, it extends the life of your clothes. So if you think about it, like I said, if it takes about 50 wears and you bought a very fancy shirt that was, let's say 200, 300 ringgit because you really love it, you might want to consider one of these fabric savers that helps to kill 99% or 97% of the germs that actually causes stench. Okay, so that's another way that you could save money. Next, let's see, there's a list here. Cars. This is very interesting. So once upon a time, or in fact until now, we always believe that people like to buy cars earlier in the year because they find that it gives you a better value. Because let's say if it's 2020, it's year end, and you bought a car in December, or let's say in October, in just 2 months, it's going to be a 1-year-old car. Makes sense, right? So if you want to sell, in 2 months' time, it would have been a year old. You would have depreciated so-called 20%. Correct? It makes very perfectly good sense. But on the other hand, year end is when car manufacturers will actually throw prices. They want to clear off their old stock. Or somewhere in Chinese New Year, where, January, February, or even now Raya, which will be somewhere in March or April, they want to clear last year's stock. So for example, if this year, Chinese New Year, 2020, they were clearing 2019 stock and they gave you 20% off or 15% off. Why not? Because you're already paying less. It really doesn't matter, because when you sell the car, it makes no difference. And in fact, truth be told, people would actually want to buy your car faster because it's slightly cheaper as opposed to buying something that's more expensive. You'll be surprised. People will shop around. The price difference of 1,000, 2,000 ringgit, people would still want to go for the cheaper one. You're actually at an advantage if you manage to sell a car 2,000 to 3,000 or even 5,000 cheaper than early in the year model, but you bought it at 10 to 15% or even 20% cheaper because it was last year's model. It doesn't really matter. You still need to make sure that you take good care of it, service it well, so that when you sell, people don't buy a lemon. So think about it. You probably want to look into that. When people are throwing their prices for last year's model, which still falls within just a couple of months, and they throw in other things like free services, free upgrades of tires, or giving you a car tin, anything of that sort, because those tiny things actually helps to save some money. Next, car insurance. So if you're trying to upgrade a car, don't forget to transfer your insurance. Okay, it's cheaper to buy new insurance on the old car and transferring your old insurance from the old car to the new car. That's the NCB, or your no claim bonus. So let's say you had an old car and your NCB has already reached 55%, or something like that. Transfer it to your new car. Just transfer it and get a new insurance for the old car, which is much cheaper anyway. Again, tiny things helps, but why not, right? Why not? I won't go into the whole petrol thing, because between a 95, 97, RON 95, RON 97, which one works better? It still falls back onto the way you drive. You could get RON 95 but drive like a total wacko, and you'll be wasting petrol anyway. Or you could get a RON 97 that costs a little bit more, but you're a smart driver, or you're going outstation, and you might save more because of the way that you drive. Not to mention the condition of your car, the condition of your tires. Those are things that gets a little bit way too complex when it comes to saving money. Next. Technology. Yeah, we love to talk about technology. We like the phones, we like the laptops and everything. Again, I like to save a couple of bucks here and there. And I don't really believe in buying the latest model, because it really doesn't last that long before the next fad comes in. So if you're not a fad chaser or trend chaser like me, then go for one model less. So for example, when the iPhone 11 is out, it took a lot of convincing for me just to get the iPhone X. 12 is coming out, so I probably won't be upgrading. My X still works perfectly well. But that's basically what it means. When you buy the latest technology, you're paying a premium. But one level below doesn't mean it's bad. It's still really good. It's still very far much more advanced than the ones that you used to have. So I usually skip one generation. So for example, like my last phone was an iPhone 7. I skipped the 8 and went to the X when the 11 was out. 12 is coming out. Highly likely when 13 comes out, I might end up getting a 12. Why? Because each time one technology back, you save that amount of percentage. Okay? And good products, they don't really drop prices. They will hold their price until the new product is launched, then they drop the price. You're not going to get people who are trying to upgrade their phones. Don't buy an 11 now, because in the next 1 or 2 weeks, when 12 is announced, your 11 will start to drop the prices, right? Plus, there's another plus point when you get something that's slightly one generation after, or the one generation old, is that software and hardware stability has been tested. So don't jump the gun to get something new unless you are ready to go on a joyride and be part of the testing group. When something goes wrong, then you send back for the warranty, then they make a note. Okay, this doesn't function very well. We're very sorry for the inconvenience, but we're going to give you a free warranty claim, but you're going to have to wait for it to come back. It doesn't make sense. Really doesn't make sense. I remember when Volkswagen launched their 1.4 Golf TSI, and I jumped on it and I regretted it for the rest of my life because I had so much of problem with that engine. Same thing, I should have done that. I should have waited and let it stabilize before considering to get it. So don't ever do that. It's a very bitter lesson to take up. Yeah. So remember, technology. Yeah, you want to chase. Not a very wise move if you're looking into trying to save money. But if money is not an option, then again, this podcast would have no use for you whatsoever. Next, let's see what else is on the list. Gym membership. Yes. Gym membership is probably a very big trap when it comes to saving money. Okay. So, but it's a very personal choice. No one's going to say it's a right decision or a wrong decision. It is still your decision. Okay. In my case, I remember when I signed up for Fitness First once upon a time. In fact, to be honest, I've signed up with Fitness First 3 times. Each time I sign on, it's a 1-year contract. So I would have prepaid a whole year of membership worth. And, they will convince you with the whole passport thing. You can go to any outlet, which kind of works because I would have swaying between 1 or 2 outlets. And you still like to have that kind of convenience. So, but prepaying a whole year and not using it regularly is foolish. It's really very foolish. But that's what happened. So I've done that 3 times. Really regret because the final one, I paid for a year, but I used 3 months, and the rest of the year was pretty much wasted. Then I got smarter, so I signed up for a different gym and paid every quarterly. Why? Because if it's on a monthly basis, it was 130 ringgit. Pay every quarterly, it became 110. So 330 ringgit for 3 months, and I used a total of 4 times in 3 months. You would have just hit me for wasting money, and I would have hit myself too, because again, it's nice if you are disciplined enough to use it on a very regular basis, but if you're not, then why not you switch to different types of gym, okay? There are many smaller gyms, which is within the community, shop house gyms, small-time clubs, not the branded clubs. True, they don't have all the fancy equipment, and, it may not be as pretty, or it'll be hardcore Instagram-worthy, but it's not pretty Instagram-worthy. Again, you need to decide what you want to do. But those are pay per visit. So you pay something like 5 ringgit per visit, or maybe 10 ringgit per visit. If you don't do more than 10 visits in a month, that's less than 100 ringgit, you still save. If it's 5 ringgit, literally if you went every day, it would have been 150 ringgit. But if you only went 20 times, it's 100 ringgit. You went 10 times, it only becomes 5 ringgit. Really, it's up to you. And if you stay in a condo like I do, and make use of it, don't waste that condo membership. It's fun to go to a gym and see the other people. You get really charged and motivated, but at the end of the day, your motivation comes from you, comes from inside. You have to know what you want to do, and you have to gun for it. If that self-drive motivation is not there, please don't expect that the gym membership will make you look any better. You're not going to get your six-pack just by owning a gym membership. You still have to work on it. And to work on it, you don't need a fancy gym. You just need the gym. In fact, you don't even need a gym if you have enough motivation to run all the exercises at home. There are many, many, many tutorials out there. You could even engage a PT, what you would have paid for a 1 year's membership. You could have paid that same membership price to a PT and gotten 10 to 20 lessons out of them, and they would have taught you everything that you needed to know. PTs these days are really awesome, and if you want one, we've got one that was on our show a couple of weeks ago, Tony. They can craft the kind of workout for you to utilize whatever that you have, regardless whatever you have at home, whether you've just got simple weights, you've got jump rope, you've got a yoga mat, or you've got nothing and it's all just calisthenics using your own body. They would be able to craft something out for you that will make you sore in every single muscle. Trust me, but it is your discipline that really, really counts. Next. Next, buying things that you really like. Okay, so you want to splurge a little bit on yourself. You want a nice watch. You don't mind having a nicer handbag. Some sort of semi-luxury goods, costume jewelry, even anything that you like. Do consider getting it at secondhand, pre-love. If you own it like it was yours, no one's gonna ever know it was secondhand. No one's gonna know you bought it at an auction site. No one's gonna know that you bought something off season. That's the beauty of being in Malaysia. We're not so we're not so up to date with the latest trends that's happening in Paris or New York. Maybe only a small portion of people are, but the general population, you can really get away with it. You have no idea. Most of my watch I get on discount sites. So I don't really like to pay full price for my watches, but pick a timeless design. So I pick timeless designs, and I aim for, again, the discounts 40 to 60%, sometimes when it hits 70, and I'm a very happy guy. But look around, go for auction sites, eBay. Sometimes when I want to buy something, it's nice to have, but there's no rush. So look for an auction, bid, and know that there's a certain cap that you have. The fun is actually in the bidding process. You go, you punching a little bit, you throw the line, you make an offer, and you wait for the very last minute. Okay, it's closing in the next 5 minutes, and you're just there. So you bid and see who challenges your bid. There's a certain art to it, there's a certain sort of like system to it, and if it's a real auction or not. If someone keeps outbidding you, and you suspect it's probably the person just playing around with you. But again, go for things that are nice to have but not necessary, and don't pay full price if you have to. Carousel is a fantastic place to pick up a lot of secondhand goods, which are not urgent or not superly essential. Nice to have. It's also a nice place for you to sell. So if you've got, excess stuff that you don't really want, just put it up for sale and make a couple of bucks here and there. You'll be surprised who would actually buy stuff. As people say, one man's junk is another man's treasure. So you could be buying someone else's junk, but to you it's a treasure. You could be selling your junk, someone else thinks it's a treasure. So go for sites like Carousel, Mudah.my, eBay, and if you want to look for certain things, even on Amazon, on eBay, they've got the today's special or the clearance, and you never know. There's something that you want might actually be on sale. Factor in the shipping and compare the prices locally. Whatever it is, you got to be an expert in comparing, because the more you compare, the better it is for you. Okay, so I think that's just about maybe 5 or 6 tips that I've tried to share with you on the simple things about saving money. Hopefully next week Dr. Ingky is back, because we've got a very interesting title that we wanted to do it this week, but we didn't manage to do it, and that's called cyberbullying. With everything that's happening in the country, cyberbullying would probably be a very hot topic. And heads up, it's going to be a very hot topic that we want to talk about. And if you've got anything that you want to share with us, please let us know so that we can get to you and we can make this show much more interesting too. So this is Dr. Ali signing off on the Two Docs with today's topic, some practical tips about saving money. See ya.